She wore her simplest gown to the ball, unaware a desired billionaire would cross the room for her. She wore the simplest gown in the room, a 5-year-old clearance dress and her grandmother's silver necklace. While Charleston's elite dripped in diamonds, Simone Bartlett felt invisible. Until billionaire Julian Hartwell crossed the entire ballroom, just to talk to her. What he whispered changed everything. "You're the only real person here." But when his wealthy board called her a gold digger and his latest charity project, their fairy tale shattered. She ran. He fought. And what happened next at his family's Vineyard estate would either destroy them forever, or prove that some love stories are worth burning down your entire world to protect. Welcome to Emotional Voyage. I'm so glad you're here to share this journey with me. If this content resonates with you, please hit the like button and subscribe. Your support helps me create even deeper, more meaningful videos for our community. Let's navigate these emotions together. The single pearl earring felt wrong. Simone Bartlett stood before her childhood bedroom mirror, smoothing the simple black gown she'd worn to 3 weddings and a funeral. At 34, she was back in this house, sleeping in this room, while her mother worked double shifts at the grocery store downstairs in the historic Charleston neighborhood they'd called home for generations. "You look beautiful, baby." Diane Bartlett appeared in the doorway, still in her work uniform. "Your daddy would be so proud." Simone's throat tightened. The Magnolia Foundation gala invitation had arrived last week, a pity gift from Patricia Morrison, a former client before Simone's non-profit consulting firm had started its slow collapse. 3 lost contracts in 2 months. If tonight didn't generate leads, she'd have to admit defeat. "Just networking, Ma." She touched her grandmother's modest silver necklace. Around her, she knew, would be women dripping in diamonds. The rideshare dropped her at the Ashford estate 40 minutes later. The mansion overlooked Charleston Harbor, its ballroom glittering with chandeliers and old money. Simone accepted champagne from a passing waiter and found her familiar position, near a marble column, looking purposeful while being completely alone. Women floated past in gowns that cost thousands. Men wore watches worth more than her car. She'd researched 5 potential clients, but approaching them felt impossible when she looked like someone's poor relation. "You're the only person here who looks as uncomfortable as I feel." The voice came from behind her, low, amused. Simone turned. The man was tall, dark-haired, devastating in a tuxedo that had definitely been tailored in Europe. His eyes were the color of the harbor at midnight. Julian Hartwell. Billionaire. Forbes cover. Hartwell Technologies. Completely out of her league. She managed. "I'm Julian." His smile seemed genuine. "And you look like you'd rather be anywhere else, which makes you the most interesting person in this room." Simone. She found her voice. "And I wouldn't say anywhere else. Just somewhere with less performance." He laughed, real, unguarded. "I've been to 43 of these events this year. They all blur together. What brings you here?" The honesty in his question surprised her into truth. "Desperation, mostly. I'm a non-profit consultant. Or I was. I'm trying to rebuild." Honest. Something shifted in his expression. "You have no idea how rare that is." A woman in red materialized at his elbow. "Julian, darling." Simone started to retreat, back to invisibility. His hand caught her wrist, gentle, questioning. "Excuse us, Cynthia." His eyes never left Simone's face. "I'm in the middle of a conversation." The woman retreated, and the glittering ballroom narrowed to just the 2 of them. "Tell me more," Julian said. "I want to know. What matters more when you first meet someone, their success or their authenticity? Share your thoughts below." Julian Hartwell's penthouse office occupied the entire 20th floor of the Hartwell Technologies building on Charleston's waterfront. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the harbor like a painting, and the minimalist furniture probably cost more than Simone's entire childhood home. She shouldn't be here. 3 days after the gala, his assistant had called. "Mr. Hartwell would like to discuss a potential consulting contract." Now Simone sat across from him in a leather chair that whispered money, her portfolio clutched like a shield. She'd worn her interview suit, the good one, though the hem was starting to fray. Your work with the Lowcountry Education Initiative was impressive. Julian leaned back, perfectly at ease in charcoal gray that made his eyes darker. 30% increase in donor retention over 18 months. You researched me. She hadn't meant to sound surprised. Thoroughly. The corner of his mouth lifted. Did you research me? You're Julian Hartwell. Everyone knows who you are. That's not the same thing. He slid a folder across the desk. The Hartwell Foundation has been underperforming for 3 years. I need someone to restructure our giving strategy, rebuild relationships with partner organizations, make us actually useful instead of just tax-advantaged. Simone opened the folder. The proposed contract terms made her breath catch. 6 months, full-time consulting. The fee was more than she'd made in the past year combined. This is too much. The words escaped before she could stop them. Julian's expression shifted, something like satisfaction. It's market rate for someone with your expertise. For firms 3 times my size. Then maybe you've been undervaluing yourself. He stood, moving to the windows. Against the light, his silhouette was all clean lines and confidence. I could hire one of those big firms. They'd send junior associates who'd give me cookie-cutter solutions and charge twice as much. Or I could hire someone who actually cares about the work. You don't know that I care. He turned, and the intensity in his gaze made her stomach flip. You spent 20 minutes at that gala talking about a youth literacy program in North Charleston. Your whole face lit up. You care. Heat crept up her neck. She'd monopolized their conversation that night, hadn't she? Rambling about her work while he'd listened, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested. I need to think about it, she said, though every practical bone in her body screamed to sign immediately. Take your time. He returned to his desk, scrawled something on his business card, handed it to her. My personal number. Call me when you decide. Their fingers brushed. Electricity shot up her arm. Julian, why me? Really? He held her gaze. Because in a room full of people performing their lives, you were real. I don't have enough real in my world, Simone. Outside, late afternoon sun turned the harbor gold. Simone clutched the folder and the card with his number, her pulse racing. This wasn't just about business. They both knew it. Have you ever been offered an opportunity that seemed too good to be true? What made you say yes or no? Comment below. Simone's mother set down her coffee mug with deliberate care. Baby, I'm just saying, be careful. It's a consulting contract, Ma. Simone spread the paperwork across the kitchen table, trying to convince herself as much as her mother. 6 months, good money. It could save the business. Diane's expression said she wasn't fooled. And this billionaire just happened to pick you out of all the consultants in Charleston? He liked my work with the Education Initiative. He liked something. Her mother's eyes were too knowing. I saw how you looked when you came home from that meeting. All flushed and scattered. That wasn't about no contract. Heat crept up Simone's neck. She'd replayed that moment 100 times, Julian's fingers brushing hers, the electricity, the way he'd looked at her when he said he needed more real in his world. His business card sat in her wallet. She'd pulled it out 17 times in 3 days but hadn't called. I can keep it professional, Simone said. Can you? Her mother's voice gentled. Sweetheart, men like that, they live in a different world. What happens when 6 months is up and he moves on to the next charity gala, the next glittering thing? The words landed like stones in her chest because Diane wasn't wrong. Julian Hartwell dated supermodels and heiresses. She'd seen the pictures when she'd finally Googled him, yachts and red carpets and beautiful women who looked like they'd never bought a dress on clearance. But then she remembered how he'd dismissed that woman in red. How he'd listened, really listened, when she'd talked about literacy programs. How his whole face had changed when he'd called her real. "I need this opportunity, Ma." She gathered the papers. "Even if it's just business, I need it." That afternoon, Simone called the number on the card. Julian answered on the second ring. "I was beginning to think you'd decided against it. I have conditions." She forced herself to sound businesslike. Monthly performance reviews. Everything documented. Clear scope of work. Done. She could hear the smile in his voice. "Anything else? We keep it professional." A pause. "Is that what you want?" Her heart hammered. Through the window, Charleston's church spires rose against October sky, steady and certain. She felt neither. "It's what makes sense." "All right, Simone." His voice dropped lower, intimate. "Professional. You can start Monday. My office, 9 o'clock. I'll be there." She hung up and immediately wondered what she'd just agreed to. When opportunity and attraction mix, should you play it safe or take the risk? What would you do? The first week was torture. Julian kept everything meticulously professional. Morning meetings in his office, always with his assistant present. Emails copied to his foundation director. When he handed her documents, he was careful not to let their fingers touch. Simone should have been relieved. Instead, she felt hollowed out. "The donor database is a mess," she said on Friday afternoon, spreading spreadsheets across his conference table. "You've got duplicate entries, outdated contacts, zero follow-up system. Fix it." Julian loosened his tie, and she tried not to notice the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders. "Whatever you need. I'll need access to." She looked up and found him watching her with an expression that made her forget words. "To what?" His voice had gone soft. "Historical giving records." She forced herself to look away. "Going back 5 years. Simone." The way he said her name felt like a touch. "Are we really going to pretend?" Her pulse jumped. "Pretend what?" He stood, moved around the table slowly, deliberately. "That every meeting isn't an exercise in restraint. That I don't think about you constantly. That you don't feel this too." She should leave. Stand up, walk out, maintain the professional boundary she'd insisted on. Instead, she stayed frozen as he stopped beside her chair. "Tell me I'm wrong," he said quietly. "Tell me you don't replay our conversations. That you don't wonder what would happen if we stopped being careful." "Julian." Her voice came out breathless. "I haven't been able to focus all week." He braced his hands on the table, bracketing her in without touching. "Every time you walk into a room, everything else disappears." She tilted her head back to look at him. His eyes were dark, intense, full of want that matched the ache in her chest. "This is complicated," she whispered. "I know. You're my client. The power dynamic is something we navigate carefully. Together." His jaw tightened. "But Simone, I can't keep pretending I only care about donor databases when what I actually care about is whether you'll have dinner with me." Dinner. Her heart was racing. A date. He said it clearly, no room for misunderstanding. Not a business dinner. Not networking. A real date where I pick you up and we talk about things that have nothing to do with foundations or consulting. That's not keeping it professional. No. The smallest smile touched his mouth. It's not. So tell me, is professional really what you want? The October sun slanted through the windows, turning everything gold. Simone thought about her mother's warning, about different worlds, about all the ways this could end badly. Then she thought about the way he looked at her like she mattered more than anything in his glittering life. "No," she admitted. "It's not what I want." His smile bloomed, genuine and devastating. "Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. Wear whatever makes you feel beautiful. Even if it's a 5-year-old clearance dress. Especially then." He finally touched her, just his fingers grazing her cheek, and electricity sang through her veins. "I'll see you tomorrow, Simone. Should you follow your head or your heart when it comes to taking a chance on love? Share your thoughts." Julian arrived at 7 o'clock exactly, standing on the steps of her row house in dark jeans and a blue button-down that made his eyes impossible. He held a single gardenia. "My mama's watching from the window," Simone warned as she stepped out. She'd chosen a deep burgundy dress she'd found at a consignment shop, not new, but it fit like it loved her. "Good." He handed her the flower, his fingers lingering on hers. "You look stunning." He'd brought a car, not a limo, thank God, but something sleek and expensive, and drove them to a small restaurant tucked away in the French Quarter. No photographers, no society crowd. Just intimate tables and candlelight and food that smelled like heaven. "Tell me something real," Julian said after they'd ordered. "Something you don't put on a resume." Simone traced the rim of her wine glass. "I cry at greeting card commercials. Especially the ones with dads." His expression softened. "You miss him. Every day." She met his eyes. "Your turn. Something real." "I'm terrified of becoming my father." The words came quiet, raw. He built an empire and forgot how to be human. Every relationship transactional, every conversation calculated. "I look at my life sometimes and wonder if I'm already there." "You're not." She reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. "Someone who's lost their humanity doesn't question whether they have." He turned his palm up, laced their fingers together. "You see something in me I'm not sure exists. I see who you are when you forget to perform." She squeezed his hand. "Like right now." Dinner stretched into hours. They talked about everything. Her father's love of terrible puns, his mother's garden on Martha's Vineyard, dreams they'd abandoned, fears they carried. The restaurant staff started cleaning around them before they noticed the time. Julian drove her home slowly, like he was reluctant for the night to end. He walked her to her door, and under the porch light, the air between them felt electric. "I want to kiss you," he said, his voice rough. "I've wanted to kiss you since that gala." "So why haven't you?" "Because once I start, I won't want to stop." Simone's breath caught. She stepped closer, close enough to feel his heat. "Then don't stop." He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones, giving her time to change her mind. She didn't. When his lips finally met hers, the world tilted. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deepened into something that felt like falling and flying at once. His arms came around her waist, pulling her closer, and she melted into him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. "Simone," he whispered. "What are you doing to me?" "Same thing you're doing to me." What makes a perfect first date, the fancy setting or the real conversation? Tell us below. The next 2 weeks felt like living in a dream. Julian would show up at her office with coffee, stay to discuss foundation business, then linger just to watch her work. They'd steal lunch hours walking along the Battery, his hand warm in hers. Evening calls that stretched past midnight, talking about nothing and everything. Her mother noticed immediately. "You're glowing, baby. That man treating you right." "He is, Ma." Simone couldn't stop smiling. "He really is." But Charleston society noticed too. The first article appeared on a gossip blog, "Hartwell's new interest, who is she?" The photo showed them leaving a coffee shop, Julian's arm around her waist. The comments section dissected everything, her off-the-rack coat, her natural hair, her lack of pedigree. "Gold digger," someone wrote. "He'll get bored in a month." Simone tried to ignore it. Julian kissed her temple and told her they didn't matter. "The only opinions I care about are yours and mine." Then the foundation board meeting happened. Simone presented her restructuring proposal, months of research, careful strategy. The 12 board members, all old Charleston money, listened with polite ice. "Interesting ideas, Miss Bartlett," Edmund Ashford said, his tone making it clear he meant the opposite. though perhaps ambitious for someone so new to working with organizations of our caliber. The data supports every recommendation, Simone kept her voice steady. Data. Catherine Pemberton smiled like a snake. Julian, dear, is this really about her professional qualifications, or are we funding your latest romance? The room went silent. Julian's expression turned dangerous. That's completely inappropriate. It's a valid concern. Edmund leaned back. The foundation has a reputation to maintain. We can't afford the appearance of impropriety. There's no impropriety. Julian's voice could have cut glass. Simone is brilliant at her job. I'm sure she has many talents. Catherine's tone dripped poison. Simone's face burned. Every insecurity she'd pushed down came roaring back. She didn't belong here. They'd never respect her. They saw exactly what she'd feared, a poor girl from the wrong side of town playing in their world. Excuse me. She gathered her materials with shaking hands. Simone, Julian started. I need air. She walked out, hearing the murmurs start before the door even closed. She made it to the elevator before the tears came. Her phone buzzed, Julian calling, but she couldn't answer. Catherine's words echoed, latest romance. Is that all she was? Another charitable project for a bored billionaire? Outside, October rain had started falling. Simone stood on the sidewalk, her proposal clutched to her chest, and wondered if her mother had been right all along. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong, even when someone wanted you there? How did you handle it? Simone didn't answer Julian's calls. Not that night, not the next morning. She went to her small office, the one-room space she rented above a bookstore, and tried to pretend her world wasn't crumbling. He showed up at noon. You can't ignore me forever. Julian stood in her doorway, rain-dampened and determined. We need to talk about yesterday. There's nothing to talk about. She kept her eyes on her laptop. They were right. This was a mistake. Simone. I heard what they really think, Julian. I'm not qualified, I don't belong, I'm just your latest charity case. That's not true. He crossed the room, but she stood, putting her desk between them. Isn't it? Her voice cracked. Be honest. Would you have hired me if we hadn't met at that gala? If you weren't attracted to me? He hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but she saw it. That's what I thought. Pain bloomed in her chest. I'm a good consultant, Julian, but there are 100 consultants just as good. You hired me because you wanted to date me. And now your board thinks I slept my way into this contract. I don't care what they think. Well, I do. The words burst out. I care that my work will never be taken seriously. That every success will be attributed to who I'm sleeping with. That I'll always be Julian Hartwell's latest romance, instead of Simone Bartlett, who's damn good at her job. So what are you saying? His face had gone pale. You want to end this? Us. The question hung between them like broken glass. I'm saying maybe they're right about more than just the job. She forced herself to meet his eyes. We're from different worlds, Julian. You go to galas, I clip coupons. You have a penthouse, I share a row house with my mama. This was always going to be temporary until reality caught up. I love you. The words stopped her cold. What? I love you. He said it again, clearer, his voice raw. Not your consulting skills, not the novelty of someone real. You. The way you light up talking about literacy programs. How you cry at commercials. That you're brave enough to call me on my bullshit. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Julian. So yes, maybe I wouldn't have hired you if we hadn't met. But I fell in love with who you are, Simone. And I'm not letting a room full of bitter old money tell me that's wrong. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But Catherine's voice still echoed, latest romance. I need time, she whispered. I need to think. His face crumbled, but he nodded. How much time? I don't know. He left without another word, and the silence felt like drowning. When love feels real but the world says it's wrong, do you fight or let go? What would you do? Simone spent Thanksgiving week in a fog. Her mother didn't push, just kept her fed and held her when she cried. The foundation work sat untouched. Julian's texts went unanswered. I meant what I said. I love you. Please talk to me. I'm not giving up on us. Then, the week before Thanksgiving, Patricia Chin Morrison called. I need to tell you something, Patricia said carefully. About Julian's board meeting. Simone's stomach dropped. I don't want to hear. Edmund Ashford called me. Asked about your work with my organization. Patricia paused. I told him you were the best consultant I'd ever hired. That you tripled our donor base in 18 months. That any organization would be lucky to have you. Patricia. Then I asked why he was really calling. Her voice hardened. Turns out Catherine Pemberton's daughter runs a consulting firm. Catherine's been pushing the board to hire her for 2 years. You weren't rejected because you're unqualified, Simone. You were sabotaged because you threatened someone's nepotism. The words landed like a bomb. Julian doesn't know, Patricia continued. He's been fighting the board, threatening to resign from his own foundation. He's burning bridges for you. After they hung up, Simone sat with her phone in her hand, shame crawling through her. She'd accused Julian of making her a charity case when he'd been defending her. She'd questioned his love when he'd been willing to lose everything. She'd run instead of fighting. Her mother found her on the porch that evening, wrapped in her father's old sweater. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, baby. I messed up, Ma. Simone's voice broke. I let my fear convince me I wasn't good enough. I pushed away the best thing that's happened to me because I couldn't believe someone like Julian could really love someone like me. And now I don't know if he'll forgive me. Diane settled beside her, taking her hand. Your daddy used to say that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to come back when you stumble. What if I'm too late? Only one way to find out. That night, Simone finally opened Julian's last text, sent 3 days ago. I'm at the Vineyard for Thanksgiving. Come find me when you're ready. I'll wait as long as it takes. She looked at flights, saw the prices and winced. Then she remembered, she wasn't that scared girl anymore. She'd built something worth saving, both professionally and personally. She booked a ticket for the next morning. If Julian Hartwell could fight for her, she could damn well fight for him too. Have you ever realized too late that fear cost you something precious? How did you make it right? Martha's Vineyard in late November was cold and beautiful, all gray skies and crashing waves. Simone stood outside the Hartwell estate, a sprawling coastal mansion that made her row house look like a dollhouse, and almost lost her nerve. A woman answered the door. Mid-60s, elegant in cashmere, with Julian's eyes. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm Simone Bartlett. I'm looking for. I know who you are. Her expression was unreadable. Julian's been miserable for 2 weeks. Come in. The interior was all exposed beams and ocean views, family photos covering every surface. A man who had to be Julian's father looked up from a newspaper, assessed her with sharp eyes, and returned to reading without a word. He's on the beach, Mrs. Hartwell said. The paths through the garden. Simone found him standing at the water's edge, hands shoved in his jacket pockets, staring at the horizon. The wind whipped his dark hair. He looked lost. Julian. He turned, and the naked hope on his face nearly broke her. Simone. He didn't move, like he was afraid she'd disappear. You came. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out as she closed the distance between them. I'm so sorry. I let fear make me cruel. I accused you of things you didn't deserve. I ran when I should have stayed and fought. You had every right to be angry. No. She stopped in front of him. I didn't. Patricia told me about Catherine's daughter. About what you've been doing to protect me. And I wasn't there. I left you to fight alone because I was too scared to believe this could be real. Simone. I love you. Her voice shook. I've loved you since that first night when you looked at me like I mattered. When you saw me instead of just another charity case or networking opportunity. You terrify me, Julian, because losing you would destroy me. But pushing you away is destroying me anyway. He pulled her into his arms so fast she gasped, burying his face in her neck. She felt him trembling. I thought I'd lost you, he said roughly. I thought. You didn't. She held him tight. I'm here. I'm staying. If you'll still have me. He pulled back just enough to cup her face, his eyes fierce. Simone, you're it for me. The board, Charleston Society, anyone who has a problem with us, they can all go to hell. I choose you. I choose you too. When he kissed her, it tasted like salt air and second chances. Behind them, waves crashed against the shore, relentless and sure. Like love that refuses to break. What does it take to fight for love when everything feels stacked against you? Share your story below. They stayed on the Vineyard through the weekend. Julian's mother warmed to her over Thanksgiving dinner, sharing embarrassing childhood stories. Even his father cracked a smile when Simone challenged him on a point about nonprofit governance. She's good for you, Mrs. Hartwell told Julian while Simone helped with dishes. Don't let her go. I don't plan to, Mom. But flying back to Charleston meant facing reality. The board. Catherine's poison. The whispers that wouldn't stop just because they loved each other. I have an idea, Julian said on the plane, lacing his fingers through hers. It's dramatic. Possibly insane. Tell me. I resign from the foundation. You finish your contract independently. No conflict of interest, no ammunition for Catherine. Your work speaks for itself. Julian, that's your family's foundation. And it'll still be there. His jaw set with determination. But I won't let them use it as a weapon against you. 6 months. You restructure everything, prove your worth beyond any doubt. Then I come back, and we do this together. As equals. Simone's throat tightened. You'd really step away? I'd do a lot more than that for you. He kissed her knuckles. Besides, Hartwell Technologies needs attention. I've been so focused on the foundation, I've neglected the company that actually pays for everything. It was crazy. It was perfect. It gave her room to prove herself without his shadow. Okay, she whispered. But 6 months only. Then we're a team. Deal. The board meeting the following week was explosive. Julian announced his resignation effective immediately, citing business priorities. Edmund sputtered. Catherine looked victorious until Julian added one more thing. Miss Bartlett's contract remains in place. She reports directly to the board now. I expect you to treat her with the professionalism she deserves, or you'll answer to me when I return. He walked out without looking back, but squeezed Simone's hand under the table first. The next 3 months were brutal. Simone worked 18-hour days, rebuilding every system, proving every recommendation. The board watched her like hawks. But slowly, results appeared. Donor engagement up 40%. 3 new major partnerships. Press coverage highlighting the foundation's renewed impact. Edmund stopped sneering. Catherine stayed silent. Patricia sent champagne. And every night, Julian called. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes he just asked about her day. Sometimes he whispered, I miss you, and she whispered back, soon. February brought snow to Charleston, rare and magical. Simone stood in her office, looking at data that proved she'd done the impossible. Her phone rang. Julian. Come to my place tonight, he said. I have something to show you. What? A grand gesture. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. What's the grandest gesture someone's made for you, or you've made for someone? We'd love to hear. Julian's penthouse was transformed. Candles everywhere, casting warm light across the floor-to-ceiling windows. The harbor glittered below like scattered diamonds. A table set for two, but what caught her breath was the wall behind it. Her work. Displayed like art. Every chart, every success metric, every partnership she'd built, professionally mounted and lit. The foundation's transformation documented in her own hand. Julian, what? You did this. He appeared from the kitchen, devastating in a dark suit. Every bit of it. No one can question your qualifications now. No one can say you didn't earn your place. Tears pricked her eyes. You kept track of everything. I told you I wasn't giving up on us. He crossed to her, took her hands. These 3 months have been the longest of my life. But watching you prove them all wrong? Simone, I've never been more proud of anyone. The board wants to extend my contract, she managed. 2 more years. Edmund actually apologized. He should. Julian's smile was fierce. You're extraordinary. So are you. She touched his face. You gave up your foundation for me. I'd give up everything for you. He pulled her close. But I'm hoping I don't have to. Hoping instead you might consider a partnership. What kind of partnership? He stepped back, and her heart started hammering because she knew that look. Nervous, determined, terrified. The foundation needs a director, he said. Someone brilliant, passionate, who's already transformed it. Someone I trust completely. The board voted unanimously this morning to offer you the position. Julian. But there's another partnership I want more. He reached into his pocket, and time seemed to slow. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other 5 months. But Simone, I knew at that gala. When you stood there in your simple dress, being real in a room full of performance. I knew. He dropped to one knee. The ring was perfect, a single sapphire the color of Charleston harbor at sunset, surrounded by small diamonds that caught the candlelight. Simone Bartlett, you've made me believe in real again. In love that isn't transactional. In a future that's more than board meetings and charity galas. His voice shook. Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me, as equals, as partners, as the love of my life? She pulled him to his feet, kissing him through happy tears. Yes, she whispered against his mouth. Yes, yes, yes. The ring slid on perfectly. Below them, Charleston sparkled. Above them, stars witnessed the beginning of everything. I love you, Julian breathed. I love you too. Simone held him close, feeling the steady beat of his heart. So much. What makes a perfect proposal? The grand gesture or the perfect words? Tell us what you think. They were married on a spring morning 6 months later, in the garden behind Simone's childhood row house. The venue choice had raised eyebrows among Julian's circle. They'd expected something grand, some estate or cathedral. But Simone wanted to marry where her father's roses still bloomed, where her mother had raised her, where her story began. Julian hadn't hesitated. Anywhere you want, he'd said. As long as I get to marry you. Now Simone stood in her childhood bedroom one last time, wearing a gown that wasn't simple. Cream silk that her mother and Julian had secretly conspired to have made, with her grandmother's silver chain at her throat and fresh gardenias in her hair. Look at you, baby. Diane's eyes shimmered. Your daddy would be beside himself. My girl, marrying for love. I wish he could be here. He is. Her mother squeezed her hand. Every good thing he taught you, every bit of strength, that's him, right here. Patricia appeared at the door. It's time. And Simone. Julian looks like he might pass out from anticipation. The garden was intimate. 50 people, white chairs, flowers everywhere. But Simone only saw Julian, standing under the rose arbor in a gray suit, looking at her like she'd hung the moon. She walked toward him on her mother's arm, and when Diane placed Simone's hand in Julian's, he whispered, "You're beautiful." So are you. The ceremony was short, personal. They'd written their own vows. Simone, Julian said, voice thick with emotion, you taught me that real is better than perfect. That love isn't a transaction, it's a choice we make every day. I choose you today and every day after. My partner, my equal, my home. Simone's tears fell freely. Julian, you saw me when I felt invisible. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You showed me that different worlds don't matter when two people are willing to build a new one together. I choose you, always. The kiss was sweet and sure, witnessed by everyone who mattered. At the reception, barbecue and sweet tea, nothing fancy, Julian pulled her close for their first dance. Mrs. Hartwell, he murmured. How does it feel? Perfect. She rested her head on his chest. Absolutely perfect. Edmund Ashford approached later, actually smiling. The foundation's thriving under your leadership. We're lucky to have you both. Yes, Simone said simply. You are. As evening fell, fairy lights twinkled overhead. Julian's mother laughed with Diane over wedding cake. Patricia caught the bouquet and groaned good-naturedly. And Simone, standing in her mother's garden wearing silk and gardenias, wrapped in her husband's arms, finally understood what her father had known all along. Love wasn't about belonging to someone's world. It was about building your own together. The end. What's your favorite part of this love story? Share which moment touched your heart the most. We'd love to celebrate with you.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. It truly means a lot to me. If this video touched your heart or resonated with you in any way, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to Emotional Voyage. Your support helps us reach more souls on this journey. Until next time, take care of your heart.